BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and today I thought I would do a tag for you. Now, I literally just filmed this video, but then I realized I think I got off on too many tangents and rambled too much, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to refill this. So this is my second filming of this tag video. This is called the stay-at-home book tag, not the one I did a few weeks ago where it was the reading rush related stay-at-home book tag. This one is just about staying. It's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same, but different prompts and stuff. It's prompts, not questions per se. I don't remember who created this tag. At least not off the top of my head, but I will find that video and share the link below when I upload this. Okay, so prompt number 1 is a book you could read or have read in a day. I've not read any books in a day because I'm not that kind of reader. I just can't do that. There's too many things that I want to do, but I ended up I wanted to answer the question, so I picked 2 books, a middle grade and a classic. That is these 2 books. Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. This is the first book in a series. I still have not read the second book, and unfortunately, because of the coronavirus and everything, the third book, I think, has been delayed. And F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. This is his most famous work. This is a middle grade, and like I said, and about a girl who's 11 years old, she's not 11, I think she starts the book at age 10, and she's told and she is a cursed child. So everything that goes wrong, like if crops die, it's a rainy season, if someone trips and falls, someone breaks their leg, or a child, something like that, then it's always Morgan's fault. She's one of the people is to blame, so she is forced by her family to write letters to these people by the end of the week, apologizing for the accidents that they believe she caused, because she happens to be a cursed child. And she's also told that when she turns 11, on her 11th birthday, she will die. So in this community, there is a thing called bidding, where children are bid on and taken as apprentices to people to learn a trade. And Morgan thinks Morgan is just going because her dad happens to be the mayor of the community, and she goes thinking she's not going to be bid on, but she ends up surprisingly receiving several bids, including a bid by this man named Jupiter North. And on her 11th birthday, the guy shows up and claims Morgan as his apprentice. And they leave right when she turns 11, so she ends up not dying, and he takes her to Nevermore, where she will participate in these trials, the last one being that she has to perform a talent of some kind. And if she completes these trials, then she will get into the Wondrous Society, where she will be beloved and actually have a real family that really care about her. This is such a fun, whimsical story. A lot of people can say when you read it, you get the same warm and fuzzy feelings you got when you first read Harry Potter, which, yeah, I can see that. But it kind of reminds me of more like Wonderland, like Alice in Wonderland, with our main character and stuff. It's this weird, whimsical world. There's not as much, it's not as nonsensical as Wonderland, but there is still a bit of nonsense and silliness in this world. And one of my favorite aspects, I think it's a favorite aspect for a lot of people who read this, is the Magnificat, a giant talking female cat that is very snarky and sassy. And I got to read the second book soon. And then the next one that I chose is, and before I get to talk about the second book, I said I feel like I can get through this in a day because it's a middle grade, and the writing style is a little bit easier to read for someone who is, 30 years old. It's a little more simpler, and it's more fast-paced than a lot of, adult books, and is not as long, and ignore the dog. That's Rascal. He's so sweet. By the way, if I ever live on my own, I would love to have a pet dog, but I think after incidences like the other day where there was a bit of a poop incident in the house, my mom and I did not clean it with the right stuff, and I accidentally stepped on the poop and not realizing and got the poop in areas in the house that my mom had to clean up, because I am not experienced with cleaning up messes like that. despite my age. So I can see that as being a reason she'll be like, no, you shouldn't have a dog, you should have a cat. Cats are easier and they have a litter box they can go to the bathroom in. But I still kind of like the idea of having a dog. I mean, I love cats too, but I kind of like the dog thing a little bit more. I mean, and I've also always had dogs, so. Okay, so before I make the same mistake I did when I first filmed this, I'm gonna get back and talk about the book. But yeah, I feel like this is faster paced and the writing style is a little simpler because the target audience is a lot younger than myself. So I feel like I can get through this a lot quicker. If I put my mind to it, I think I can get it done in a day. And then the other book I chose for this is The Great Gatsby, which is about our main character, Nick Carraway. He is a writer, but of course he has a dead-end job just to make ends meet. He ends up moving to West Egg. I think the book takes place in New York, and the fictional town of West Egg, where his West Egg or East Egg, I always get this mixed up, where his cousin Daisy lives, and she's married to Tom Buchanan, who's a self-made rich guy. And he finds out from Daisy's friend, who's a golf pro, and I think her name is, I don't remember, I still don't remember her name. I couldn't remember when I first attempted filming, and I still can't remember it now. But let's call her Jane. Jordan, that's what it is, Jordan. Who, and Daisy tries to play matchmaker with Jordan and Nick, and at first he kind of likes her, and then he hears from Jordan about across the lake is the mysterious Jay Gatsby, who throws these lavish parties. Everyone wants to be invited to his parties. He's like a celebrity in this community. And somehow Jordan gets him an invitation. Either Jordan gets it or somehow he gets it himself. And he shows up and has an interaction with Gatsby, and they become friends. Gatsby tries to help him with his job and stuff, and it is revealed that Gatsby has an ulterior motive, and that he knew Daisy back in the day, and he was in love with her, and he wants a second chance romance with her. Fortunately, like I said, she's married to Tom, and who was having an affair, by the way, and in the affair with a woman in the city. And he's not that great of a guy, but Gatsby thinks that he and Daisy deserve a second chance. So Nick is supposed to arrange that, and he does arrange it so that they can meet and be reunited. But he doesn't realize, of course, that it might involve some Daisy cheating on her husband and having, But it's a quick read, I feel, at least to me now. It might not be so quick of a read if you're not a fan of the book, if you don't like the book as much. It's only 9 chapters, and you can see it's a thin book. It's not that long. And I feel like, it's only 180 pages. And it's also been made into a movie twice. Once with Robert Redford as Gatsby, and Mia Farrow as Daisy. And then it was remade with Leo DiCaprio as Gatsby, and I cannot remember the actress's name who plays Daisy. I know her. She's the same woman in An Education, the British movie. Not the Nonfiction, but there was a movie. I think it was called An Education. It was a British movie that was made about where a young high school student has an affair with a married man. It's pretty good. But anyway, so I can't remember her. I guarantee you her name's gonna pop in my head any second now, either after I'm filming this or in the middle of my filming this. But okay, so prompt number 2 is snacking, a guilty pleasure. Now, I had a hard time with this prompt because I feel like a lot of people define guilty pleasures differently. Everyone has a different, and some people believe that you shouldn't consider a book a guilty pleasure because, you should read what you want to read. And so what if not everybody loves that book? And who cares that people criticize that book or have, negative opinions on art? You shouldn't worry about what people think, and, who cares if they look down on you because they shouldn't look down on you in the first place? But I was able to pick. I ended up picking a Sarah J. Maas book because she is an author who gets polarizing opinions when it comes to her books. Not everybody loves them, especially as time has passed. People, I think, have fallen out of love with her work, but I do believe her fans are loyal. And I'm kind of in the middle there, where it's like I'm kind of falling out of love with her work, but then I remember still enjoying it, and I wasn't paying attention to all the flaws. I know a lot of people criticize her, but I don't pay attention. I just enjoy the story. So I ended up picking her, and I feel more an urge to reread this, than continue with the Throne of Glass series. But I have thought about continuing with the Throne of Glass series because my sister's college roommate, which was a pleasant surprise, she has gone to Sarah J. Maas. I knew that she was a reader. I found out back in last November. I found out that she was a reader, but I didn't think in all honesty, I did not expect her to be a Sarah J. Maas fan. But it turns out she is, and she's starting Throne of Glass, and I tried the best to be a little more honest, open, non-biased in my opinion of it. And she actually is, like everybody else, is a fan of this particular series, and also fell in love with the love interest in this series, the guy who ends up becoming love interest by the second book. And that is A Court of Mist and Fury by, and I remember really loving this. I mean, I definitely had a stronger reaction to it, a stronger love for this one than A Court of Thorn and Roses. I did like A Court of Thorn and Roses, especially since it was Beauty and the Beast retelling. And sometimes I do wonder if my love stems from because everyone on BookTube loved it. Sometimes I question myself and feel like, am I only loving this because of BookTube and because everyone else? And I have really thought about rereading it. In fact, and the only reason I keep ACOWAR is because this one ends on a cliffhanger. So I'm like, I feel like I don't like when, I have no problem with cliffhangers, but I didn't want to only keep this one when it ends on a cliffhanger and not be reminded and not be able to go on to not have the next book so I can jump into that and keep going with the story, even if there's a lot of flaws in ACOWAR too. I fell in love with Rhysand. I love the Night Court. I want to be a part of the Night Court. And my only other, and if I didn't have Rhysand, because I don't like, even though it's not real, these characters are not real, I still am like thinking, well, I don't want to take the character away from the main character, especially if I like the main character, and I don't want to take away their love interest, so I'm like, oh, well, because he doesn't have a love interest yet, I'll go with, what is his name? I can't remember his name. Tamlin's right-hand man, Prince of the Autumn Court. I cannot believe I can't think of his name. But the one dude, he's the redhead dude. I think he's a redhead. But maybe because but I can again another name that will just randomly pop into my head either during my filming of this or like when I'm done filming. But he would be my next choice if I could think of his name. But anyway, I love the series, and I seriously would reread it. I mean, as I'm holding it and thinking about it and talking about it, I am tempted to reread it. Maybe reread it for Tome Topple or something. But I would probably want to check and see if it applies to any of the prompts for Medievalathon as well, if I decide to reread it for Tome Topple. Okay, so next prompt, I keep wanting to say question, but technically they're not questions, is Netflix a series you need to start. I love the TV show version of this, and I think a lot of the complaints that the series receives, the trilogy I should say, receives, I feel like the show, I get the impression that the show kind of improves on that and changes things to be more, more acceptable. And that is The Magician's Trilogy by Lev Grossman. And I know a lot of people also, like, some of the things that people complain is it's kind of slow. It's slow moving. and that it's also, and I think that it was the kiss of death when they said they compared it to Harry Potter. But I do like this quote by George R. R. Martin, this blurb where he says, "The Magicians is to Harry Potter as a shot of Irish whiskey is to a glass of weak tea. Hogwarts was never like this." And I do love that. I think it was Stella Maeve who plays Julia in the show said that it's like Harry Potter on steroids. I think that's what on acid. She said it was on Harry Potter on acid, which I found that was really, really funny. But I still think it was a little risky comparing it to Harry Potter because I feel like, I know it's a marketing tool, it's how to sell a book, compare it to what's popular or what's sold really well before. But I feel like it gives people false expectations, and okay, I'll let you in a little bit. People say they're expecting to be like Harry Potter, or like some people compare, books are compared to like Hunger Games or Six of Crows, and people are expecting it to be like that, and it's not, and they get very disappointed, and it's almost like they're personally offended that it's not compared to that. It's not that. It's not their fault. I feel like I kind of blame the marketing team. And Rascal, what are you doing? That's not your bathroom. This is my bathroom. Oh, okay. Terry just let me know that I got another package coming from her. I keep thinking like she got me more than I got her for her birthday, because her birthday was on the 6th. Come on. But so yeah, but you know, I still want to read this trilogy. I love the show, and I actually, fun fact, I was supposed to meet some of the actors from the show that play some of my favorite characters, but with this virus going on, I don't think that's going to happen. Even if everything opens up in North Carolina, like businesses are opening up, if there's no vaccine, I think people are going to be too afraid to go to a big convention where it's super crowded, and there's going to be people taking photo ops and stuff like that, and shaking hands and all that, and it's just not going to be. Can you get up there? Come on. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. But anyway, so yeah, I want to read this trilogy, and now this might be a sign that I can finally sit down and reread it. And let me see something. Let me just check something, because I'm wondering. No, nope. Nope, it does not count. It's not even 400 pages. It's only 397. It's 390 pages. So it's not even 400 pages. So it cannot count for Tome Topple. But anyway, okay. So that's a trilogy I need to reread. I need to read. Okay, so next is Deep Cleanup. It's been on your TBR for years, for ages. And I'm going to say it's the classic that I keep bringing up is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Well, now I did have his other most famous work, which was the Three Musketeers, but I kind of lost interest after a while, so I ended up donating it. I have thought about rebuying and giving it another shot, but this is the original revenge story. It's a French classic about this guy named Edmond Dantes. He has a pretty good life. He's going to get a job promotion. He has a beautiful fiance, but then, he has two rivals for his job and for his fiance, and they frame him for being a Bonapartist, because this is during the time when Napoleon is trying to take over and make his own empire. So Edmund goes to Chateau d'If prison, which is a prison on an island, so there's no way to escape unless you're a good swimmer. And he meets one of the prisoners who's a priest. He's been there for years, and he ends up educating Dantes, and they work on trying to escape. And he finds out from this priest that there is a treasure that belongs to him on the island of Monte Cristo, and he wants Edmund to find that treasure and claim it. So unfortunately, the priest is an old guy and he dies, but Edmund, luckily enough, comes up with a clever idea and escapes and sets out to find this treasure with help of pirates. And then when he finds it, he creates a whole new identity known as the Count of Monte Cristo, and he returns to, I don't remember what the place is called, to Paris or Versailles? I don't remember. to seek his revenge on the people who framed him. And funnily enough, this was considered a sensationalism story when it first came out. So it's like Game of Thrones or Twilight as far as reception goes. But it's now a classic. It's something that should be studied. That people consider it like a big deal if you read this book, not just because of its huge size, but also because it's a classic. And there are times when the book gets a little tedious and boring, and there's times when you're like, what does this have to do? At least for me, anyway, there's times where I'm thinking, what does this have to do with our main character? But after watching Jennifer Brooks and some other booktubers that talk about this book, I'm pretty sure that those characters are relevant. You just have to wait and be patient. And I am up to, I think, chapter 52, so I think that's good compared to when the very first time I attempted to read this book. And I imagine it was bad. It was just bad timing. I was not ready for something like this with this kind of language. This dense. I feel like I did not read enough classics at that time when I first attempted. And I feel like this is a book that I need to just sit down and read it. Like, pick a day where I focus only on this book. And actually, coincidentally, not this coming week, but the week after, surprisingly, I'm only scheduled for one day, which my mom was kind of surprised, and I'm wondering if she's going to tell me to offer my services to work some other days. But, yeah, because originally my parents had a plan to go on vacation, but then they had to cancel with the virus and everything, so I was supposed to, let one of our managers know that I was available, and I did, but she was kind of like, okay, I'll try to remember that, because I already had gotten the approved on the website. She was like, okay, I'll try to remember. So my mom's concern is that I'll be off 2 weeks in a row for several days. Like, I won't be scheduled for several days to not work, so she's a little bit concerned, and I'm, but if they call and ask, I'll probably volunteer and go. I'll probably say, oh yeah, I can come in. On any of those days I'm not scheduled, I'll feel like because I feel like I should, it's only, but I could use those days as an opportunity to focus on this book, especially because Tome Topple's coming up. It's not coming up, it started today, on the 9th. So anyway, but yeah, it's a good story. It's just, and I'm really engaged in when I do finally sit down and read a good amount. It's just, or I should say a decent amount. It's just that it can be a little tedious, and it is a little different than modern writing. I mean, it's in English. It's not like in a foreign tongue or anything, but it's still a bit. This writing is different. A little bit different than today's writing, the 21st century, what people write in the 21st century. But I definitely recommend it, of what I've read so far. If you're comfortable with classics. Okay, so the next question is Animal Crossing, which, by the way, is not something I've gotten into. I don't plan to get into it. I feel like it's something that I gotta download, and I don't want to download another game. Talking too much. I don't want to download this, and even if it's free, I don't want to go through all that trouble, because I already get really impatient and frustrated with some of the games that are offered on Facebook when I play them, and they're addicting. I don't want to get addicted to another game, even if it's really fun, because I just don't want to. But the prompt is, like, Animal Crossing, a book you recently bought because of the hype. Animal Crossing is very popular. I hear when on people's vlogs, they always have me playing it. So I guess now is the perfect time to get into it. So I picked The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So, this is only her second book. And the first book is The Night Circus, which was, I believe it was 2013 when it came out. And I read it after it had been out, probably a year, because it was in paperback now here in the US. And I just fell in love with it. And I did not know how popular it really was. I didn't have family and friends to talk. I mean, I have family. I don't mean it like I don't have family and friends, obviously. But they weren't, they, I mean, I couldn't talk to them about it because I didn't know if they weren't really cared or were even interested. My family, only a few people in my family read books, I feel like, and I don't know. And, that's another book I should recommend to Wendy Wings, who Mrs. College roommate. But, so I get on BookTube and pleasantly surprised to find that it's a BookTube darling. And then a couple years later, I find out she's working on this one. And by the sound of it, it kind of reminds me of Shadow of the Wind, which I just finished reading last month. And it's funny, a lot of people have struggle with giving a summary and description of what this book is about because it's a very convoluted plot. But yeah, it sounds like something that's right up my alley. I want to read it, and then I feel like it was very popular. I mean, not everybody turned out loving this book, but I feel like it got a lot of hype when people realized that she was writing another book, and then when it finally came out, people were very excited to read it because it had been so long since she had written and published The Night Circus that finally she's writing another one and she's publishing another one. So it was a real big deal. And I finally got it around the time. I got it actually at Walmart around the time. So I don't think it's a fancy edition. Yeah, it doesn't have anything on the spine, because I know, except for the title and stuff, but I know some of this, I don't know if it's the Owl Crane edition or maybe the British edition or whatever, but I know a lot of them have something on the spine. But it's still a beautiful book. And I like this. I think this is what's on the spine in other editions, but I like this. I'm so glad, because I hate it when, I mean, hate's a bit of a strong word, but I don't like it. People feel the need to take off the book spines because the book jackets, because they move around a lot, and sometimes it's hard to read with them, and you don't want to ruin them, if you take a book to read, at the pool or the beach or something. But I don't like taking them off, because a lot of times they're blank. There's nothing there. But I really like that this one, and then, and also King of Scars also has something on the when you take off the dust jacket. So I really appreciate it. It got me really excited that it had something there. Because, like I said, that's the only reason I don't like taking off dust jackets, is because I don't like it when it's blank. It's a bit of a shallow pet peeve of mine. Although I was Saxcoing, I can't say it. I still cannot say it. I need to hear it, but it's a word. The name of this booktuber's name has to do with Outlander. I can't say it. Scottish word. But it has to do with Outlander. The book wizard. I'm just gonna go back. Sam, the book wizard. She also, I remember she was just on one of her book hauls. She showed a book that she received that it was really cool. It had a kind of, on the naked hardback, it had a tie-dye on the naked hardback. And she was saying, why can't publishers do this more? And I totally am agreeing with her. But I also was thinking, well, maybe it's a cost thing. Maybe it costs to put a design on the naked hardback. But, yeah, let's see. That's my pick for hype. Although, I don't. Okay, so, although I got me out of trouble, I wasn't certain, but that was the first one I saw that I removed from my shelf that I set aside to read soon. Okay, so next is Productivity, a book you learned or had an impact on you. And at first I was going to say the book for the prompt that I picked for the prompt of FaceTime, which is a book you were gifted. But I decided to go with a different one, a nonfiction. On writing a memoir of the craft by Stephen King. I listened to this on audiobook and I just fell in love with it. I'm kind of still working my way and getting to know nonfiction better. I think memoirs are the most appealing to me because they're usually very personal. They're not as long as a biography or an autobiography. And they're just a part of they're just one bit of someone's life. It doesn't encompass their whole life. Although this one kind of did. But it kind of was it was focused more on his profession as a writer. And if you're not a fan of Stephen King, I still recommend checking this out because he provides some good advice. And I gotta admit, it made more of an impact hearing him say it, a famous author as well known that I love his work, other than someone like that I know is an author on BookTube, but they're still kind of getting out there, getting themselves out there, and they're not as famous and they're not as well known. And I personally haven't read their work, although I'm hoping. There's a booktuber, Elliot Brooks, published a book, a fantasy book, and it is on my Amazon wish list. So I'm hoping I get a surprise, and it's going to be in one of my birthday gifts. It's going to be a gift from either Terry or my parents. I'm kind of hoping, or maybe I don't know if my sister's going to send me anything, but maybe she'll just send me a card, which is fine. It's not about the gifts, it's about the fact that these people are thinking about you on your birthday. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping it might be one of the books I get for my birthday. But it's one of her books. Normally it will be the first book by a booktuber that I'm hoping to read or get from as a gift, I'm hoping. But yeah, so it's Stephen King, so I gotta admit, I take him a little more seriously. Not that I don't take booktubers, I mean, I think it's amazing, compared to the fact that I can't discipline myself to write, so I can actually have a book. I have ideas whirling around my head, but I don't discipline myself. And I know that, like, people like Steve Donahue would say, well, that just means you don't want it enough. And I gotta admit, I don't always want to admit that, but unfortunately that is probably true. And even Stephen King said it himself, not like that you probably don't want enough if you can't discipline yourself to sit down and write. But I always say, in my defense, I just get distracted way too easily. But he offers some good advice, but it's not condescending, and it's kind of like, here's some advice, I think you should consider it, but you don't absolutely have to take it. But, at the same time, I recommend considering it at least. And he tells a lot of stories of things that inspired his work. Like, a lot of memories. Like, one of my favorites, and I could sort of relate to it. I mean, I've never gotten what he got, in the area where he got it, but there was one time with his brother, and they were going hiking, and he had to use the bathroom, and his brother's like, not wanting to send him to go all the way back home, because it was so far, he's like, oh, just go out in the woods. So he ends up, and it turns out he has to go number 2. And so he goes to the bathroom in the woods, and he's like, what do I wipe with? And his brother tells him, oh, just use the leaves. And it turns out the leaf he used was poison ivy. And I can definitely relate to getting poison ivy on your body. So that is not comfortable, especially if you're allergic to it. And I don't think Stephen King was allergic to himself, but yeah. And that's not the best place. Where he got it is not the best place to get it, because it's kind of hard. You can't scratch that area in public anyway. But I thought that was one of my favorite stories that he told, along with the one where I don't remember if it was his teacher or guidance counselor, but she was like, was disappointed with the stuff that he writes. She's like, why do you write this trash? And yet, I was thinking, that kind of trash is what he's most famous for. He was successful, and I wonder if he ever, to be sassy and snarky, did he ever send his teacher a copy of one of his most popular works? Or his counselor, whatever. I think that'd be hilarious if he did. But, yeah, and it's very informative, but it's also very personal, and it's not boring. I feel like it was very engaging and very interesting and very fun and funny. And he has a very honest voice. It's very blunt. I know not everybody likes his writing style, but I just think he's just honest. He's very honest and brutally honest at times. But he's not mean. Like, he's just like, this is how it is. This is, So, yeah, I am glad I read it. I have thought maybe I'll buy it. I don't know, but it might be very helpful if I ever do finally discipline myself to sit down and actually write something beyond little bits and pieces. Okay, so that was productivity. The next one is FaceTime, a book that you were gifted, and I'm going to say Something Wonderful by Tadas Purdom. This is a book that my sister gave me for Christmas, I think in 2018. And actually, she picked this particular one because of the color, because she said it looked very Christmassy. But it is about the partnership of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. They are the guys who wrote the musical Cinderella, Sound of Music, Oklahoma, The King and I, South Pacific, Those are their most famous, and most people know those, have heard of those plays at least, and those musicals. Even if you're not into musicals, you've at least heard about them, I think. And it's just about their partnership and how they became partners in their personal lives and their careers. And it does focus more so on Oscar Hammerstein than Richard Rodgers, because he's just someone, the impression you get from the author is Oscar Hammerstein is someone it's easier to get to know him. He has a more jolly, friendly personality. Wow, Richard Rodgers is a little more standoffish, and I feel like he's kind of like, or at least the impression I get from the author of this, that he gives the impression of the, stereotypical artist type. That's very just very distant. And people have trouble getting to know him, understanding him, unless you're, part of his family. And even then, you might not truly know him. But it's so good, and it was really fun to see the process and to learn how they write, how they work, and also to learn about their flops, because I think that's very important, especially if you want to get into the same kind of career, or for any career, especially any artistic career. You gotta expect rejection, and not everything is gonna do well. You're not gonna succeed at everything. I think it's very important. So if you're so I feel like if you're a Broadway geek or nerd or whatever you want to call us, I think you should check this book out. And I'm glad I finally read it. I feel very proud that I actually, after like 2 years, I finally got around to it. Well, maybe only a year. Well, I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad I can say. And I think I need to finally read John Adams, which is my brother-in-law's book. And I was not gifted that. I borrowed that. I mean, I tell my brother-in-law, I'm like, oh, I always apologize to him and everything. He's like, oh, well, that's okay. I don't feel like reading it right now anyway. No one's asking for it, so. But I feel like I really need to get around to either that or buy a paperback copy and then give him back his copy. When we finally can, when this whole virus thing finally ends and they have a vaccine and stuff and we can finally go somewhere, go see people and stuff. Okay, so, there's 2 more to go. So, self-care, I had surprisingly trouble. I didn't know what they were expecting. Because I don't pamper myself. I feel weird about someone massaging me, so I don't like the idea of massages and spending time. I feel bad because every time Terry's visited me, or when we went on the cruise together, she wanted to get a massage because she loves them. And I gotta admit, I was secretly hoping that we couldn't do it, and it turns out we couldn't, but I felt bad about it because I know she really enjoys them. But in all honesty, I don't feel comfortable with them, and I also feel weird about having, like, something on my face. But I still run daily. I make sure when I get home from work, I wash my hands as soon as I get home and right before I leave work. I still make sure we always wear masks and gloves now. So really, I don't do anything. I don't like pamper myself or anything. I just take showers and just chill out, watch TV, or read books, get on the internet and watch BookTube. So really that's all I do. As far as like focusing on myself. And then next, the last question is it's a bonus question. Name a book that's coming out soon. Although a lot of books have been canceled and are at least delayed because of what's going on, this world crisis, which is understandable because people cannot go to the store. Although phase 1 in North Carolina is to open up retail businesses, that as long as you're just walking around and not close proximity and not just, it's like, I feel like that's an okay, such because like people are not sitting down and, like up close with each other, like a hair salon or something. But I picked the Silvered Serpents by Ron Chachowski. I really love The Gilded Wolves. I know not everybody does, but I loved it just like not everybody loved King of Scars or Wicked Saints. But I personally was one of the people who did love all 3 of those, and the Silvered Serpents is the second book. And I don't know what's coming out. But the first book was compared to Six of Crows because it does involve a heist. But like I said, do not trust when they compare something to another very popular series just because it's compared to that series does not mean it's going to be that exact series. Do not assume it will be. Because I think that's the kiss of death if you assume that. Because then you're going to be ultimately disappointed because nothing is ever going to be exactly like your favorite series that it's been compared to. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. And I still want to get Ruthless Gods. I don't know if that one's out yet or not, but that's another one I want to get soon. But anyway, so that is the stay-at-home book tag, and I will post the link to the original video down below. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't. I hope you're enjoying your reading. If you are fortunate enough to be able to still enjoy reading. I know not everybody has been able to because of what's going on. They're just so focused on that and feeling like they need to pay attention to that. But if you are, like I said, if you're lucky enough to read, to be able to still read, then I hope you're enjoying your reading. And I will talk to y'all later. Oh, and click the bell notification below when you want to know when I post new videos. And give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Alright, bye!